Hey everyone, so welcome back to the channel. So it's about time to butcher these Freedom Rangers. I'm actually a little bit behind schedule, but with weather and work, that happens sometimes. I'm going to show you how I'm making these kill cones. Now this is the cheapest version I could come up with. We're making them out of some 5-gallon buckets I had left over. And you can see here's one here, and I'm going to show you how I did it. And I actually got this idea on actually a YouTube channel, and I'll try to remember what channel it was. So this bucket here actually happens to be an old Lowe's bucket that I had left over from something. It's actually got some stain inside of it whenever I was working on a job. We're going to start off with this Lowe's bucket for this video, and I'm going to use my skill saw, and I'm going to start by just cutting the bottom off. And then I'm going to cut a V all the way out of this. I found that was the easiest way to do it. That quick, and we've got the bucket cut the way that I want it. And I'm going to show you how we're putting this together. It's easier probably with 2 people, but I'm working by myself. It's hot. Got my old nasty work clothes on. We're trying to get this process set up, and then in this same video, it'll be tomorrow morning, we'll be processing some chickens. I need this bottom to be just probably the size of my fist, maybe a little bit bigger. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to twist this, and you can hear how old this bucket is. It's kind of cracking around this ring. But I want this, we're going to let this just kind of flop around. Put this end underneath that lip. That kind of help you hold it a little bit. Once you get it secured under that lip, I just want it about like that. I'm going to take a drill bit, which is probably dull. I'm going to get me a couple of holes drilled here in this lip. Get that line back up. This is where it's easier to have 2 people, but it still doesn't take long by yourself. Get that line back up. Now, if you see me sweating, it's because it's almost 100 degrees out here in high humidity in Arkansas. You just got to deal with it sometimes. It wears you out. But all we're going to do is take a zip tie. I got 2 holes drilled. We're just going to push that zip tie around through both of them holes. Now, if you get this bottom one drilled, it really makes everything else easier. So once I get that cinched down, I'll leave it for a second. Get this shaped the way I want it. Just big enough to make sure that the head can come down, the neck hangs down, so that you can dispatch the chickens. So all I'm going to do is come up here, drill a couple holes, just trying to secure it so that it holds the chicken. The chicken kind of will be tucked down in there, kind of like it's being nestled in. They won't fight too much. It's a lot cleaner than if you just chop their heads off like we did whenever I was a kid. It's the beauty of YouTube. That's what I learned this off of, and it's going to work exponentially better. And kill cones that you have to buy are really expensive. So I've got some zip ties here, and probably for about $3, I'm going to make 3 kill cones. So you don't need a ton of zip ties if you're not using it every single day. All I'm doing is trying to make sure that it holds the chickens in. They won't be in here but for a couple of minutes to bleed out, and then they'll be in the plucker. So that's what we have here. You can take a pair of pliers or something and cut these off. I've got a knife here. Inexpensive kill cone. So there's 2 kill cones right there. Took maybe a total of 10 minutes to do both of them. These are going to mount like this. Doesn't have to be fancy. Let's see if we can get these finished up. I've got one more to make. We'll get these mounted up, and then we'll get these chickens processed first thing in the morning. All right, so we're out here the next morning, and I'm gonna get busy processing these chickens. Got my black on in respect for the chickens. So here's the setup. Here's our setup. So we got our 3 kill cones. We have our water. It's the biggest pot I had on hand, but it'll work. Got our plucker. Got our processing table. Then we've got an ice chest here that's got some ice water in it, and that water will displace as I put chickens in it. We'll want to cool them down. We'll get them processed. So that's what we've got. So we'll catch chickens, and then we'll run them through the process here. You can see this is my catch stick here, and it's just a long stick. This is actually a piece of trim, as long as it's sturdy. And on the end, I just have a heavy piece of wire that's bent in a loop. All right, I've got a hole drilled through here, the wire running back, and I got some zip ties. This was actually a bucket wire off of one of the buckets I made those kill cones out of. And basically all you do is run it up through there and catch them by the foot. It keeps you from having to crawl around and overexert yourself. It's nice if you can grab them off the roost like the night before and put them in a container or something, like a big dog kennel or something, and then just have them all ready for the next morning. But this is the way I opted to do it, and it's working out pretty good. Okay, so the first thing we got to do, we got the chickens in the cones here, just upside down with their heads picking through. And so right here close to their wattles is their jugular. So we'll get close to that. And basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna flatline these chickens instead of putting them in shock like when you cut their heads off. So just like that. And that chicken is flatlined. All right, so here's what we do. We got several chickens plucked here. I'm trying to move through these as quickly as possible today. I'm doing this by myself. So we've got one here. First thing we're gonna do, we're going to remove these feet. Now, we don't keep the feet, heart, liver, neck, tail, stuff like that. The livers and heart go to catfish bait, and we really don't do anything with the neck. I know you can cook them down for broth and stuff like that, but we don't. My wife is not much on messing with these necks. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to come here to where this low place is, and we're going to cut down. We're going to remove this leg. All right, once we got the leg removed, now a lot of people will flip this over and remove that oil sac, but we don't keep the tail, so I'll show you how we do that. So what we're gonna do is come up here, we're gonna pinch this skin, give it a little cut, we're gonna pull that, and inside here we've got the crawl or the crop, whatever you wanna call it. And it can be kind of tricky to get out sometimes, it's kind of slippery. So we're gonna loosen that up and pull on it. Then we're going to come down here and get this esophagus and windpipe. We're going to pull them out. And there's 1,000 videos on YouTube of how people do this. We're going to pull those out, right? And all I'm going to do is I'm going to put my finger in here. I'm going to loosen that up a little bit so it's easier to come out. So we're going to come back here to the back. Now I'm not going to cut this up high. I'm going to cut this down low right here. Just enough to get into it good. And then we're going to pull that open. Right? And I'm going to reach in here. And I'm going to reach as far in there as I can. And I'm going to try to grab those entrails and start just kind of pulling them. And there's my esophagus there. We're going to grab all that stuff. We're just going to pull it out the back end. All right. So we get these kidneys out. So we got everything pulled out here. We can just pull that off, throw it in the bucket. Now we remove the tail. I mean, there's a little bit of fat and stuff on it. If you're selling them, you leave it for weight, but we're not selling them. So I'm gonna cut down each side of it. And then we're just going to remove the whole tail. You've got to remove at least the oil sac out of the tail, but that's the way we're going to do that. Now you got to get the lungs. Now one of those lungs just came out. You come in here and you scoop sideways with the ribs, and then you can pull the lungs out. All right, here's the other lung that came out just a second ago. So that's pretty much everything there. Now I left this skin on here because I'm going to make a slot here. And for packaging, this is going to make it a lot easier. And I'm going to tuck these legs up in that flap of skin so that they're up out of the way for packaging. All right. So that's how we do that. Now, I remove the neck and stuff. Someone's going to say I'm wasting. Well, that's fine. We don't really have anything to do with the neck. There's not much on them. You can cook them down. You can spend your time doing that if you want. But we don't. So I just put pressure on it right there. Find a joint. And I just press the knife into that joint. It's a little tricky. You can break that joint with that knife. Then you can just take the neck off. And then you've got a nicely packaged little bird there. It'll be easy to we'll give it a good rinse off, recheck for any feathers, and rinse the inside out. You see all that loose stuff coming out there. And there we go. We got a nice homegrown chicken that we can put in the freezer. Now I've got this ice chest here. And you see I've got some chickens already in it. It's got ice water in it. We're going to set that down in there. I'll put a little bit more water, a little bit more ice in there, and then we'll let those cool off. We'll pull the drain plug, let the water drain off, and I'll pack these on ice. Now the reason I'm packing those on ice, you do not want to freeze these things right when you process them, because they have to go through a period of rigor mortis. Now for a chicken, it takes 1 to 2 hours for them to go into rigor mortis. Now if you're a hunter, you understand this from cleaning deer and stuff like that. If you freeze something before it goes through the process of rigor mortis, your meat's going to be tough. So if you've processed chickens your own and they're real tough, the reason is you've probably put them in the freezer a little bit too early. The icing them for a couple of days is something that we do with all of the game that we process. A lot of people complain saying the chicken was a little tough. Well, you can't eat animals that are in rigor mortis without it being tough. It just ruins the meat. So if you ice them down, and with chickens up to 24 hours, so you're going to have to ice them down for a couple of days, which is an expense. Unless you've got a big cooler or something you can keep them in and keep them 40 degrees or cooler, then you're good to go. Then you can just package them up. So we're going to show you how we package them. Okay, so we're getting ready to bag up these chickens, and we bought the More Pack. These are the 10 by 16s, and we're going to see how well they work. First time I've used these bags. It's pretty simple. Put your chicken in a bag, come with 2 straws, stick it into the body cavity a little bit, pull the plastic up, twist it. They come with zip ties. Put a zip tie on it. I'm gonna have to hold it with my leg there. And this water has got to be between 180 and 195 degrees. It's at 190 right now. We're gonna submerge this for 5 seconds. We're gonna pull it out, wait 10 seconds, let the bag finish shrinking around your chicken. Once that's done, after 10 seconds, we're gonna pull this straw and tighten the zip tie. And then we're just gonna cut off the plastic and the zip tie. So there's the finished chicken. We'll dry it off. I've got a laundry basket here that I'm sticking it in, and then we'll put them in the freezer. That's already cold to the touch because the chicken's coming out of that ice. If you remember, I put these in ice. The chickens are really cold. They've been in there for 2 days. These are gonna be delicious, tender chickens. So that's all there is to it.